Billy Grant, at BillITheB99, caught up with bloggers at all 24 championship clubs up and down the country to find out their thoughts on their last campaign and how they feel their team will fare this season. Part 2 covers teams Nottingham Forest to West Brom. Part 1, click here, covers teams Aston Villa through to Leeds. Nottingham Forest last season, prediction B, actual position 13th v 17th. How would you describe last season for your club? I probably start to sound like a broken record, but another topsy-turvy season is always at the City Ground. It started off promising with Warburton bringing in a number of players, the football was nice on the eye, and the fact he had faith in the youth was encouraging, but the football then became predictable. There was no plan B, and before you knew it, you were in a rut of form. Warburton was sacked and Karanka came in. He had to save us, but luckily, we didn't have a repeat of nerves from the season before. What are your hopes for 2018-19 season? Promotion? It's as simple as that. We've invested heavily in the squad, even with the loan players with a view to permanent. We've got a £60 million front four, and if they don't perform, then I think people will be pointing the finger and laughing. Look at what happened with Wolves. Spent lots of money season before last and got laughed at pretty much, but they went on to storm the league last season. We've skipped a few steps and gone all out in one go. We have to get promoted. How are you getting on in the transfer market? Bought or losing anyone? 10 new signings with the possibility of picking up another one whilst I type this answer. Michael Dawson has made a return to his boyhood club, and it's great to have him back. Hopefully he can help the younger players on and off the pitch. We made Tobias Figueiredo and Castel Pantilimon permanent signings following their loans from last season. Jack Colback has returned on loan. Jack Robinson has joined us on a free from QPR, unknown quantity. Hilal Sudani has joined us from Dynamo Zagreb. Embed from Getty Images. Lewis Grabban signed for a reported £6 million from Bournemouth after scoring 20 goals across 2 loan spells at Sunderland and Aston Villa. He will be pivotal to scoring goals this season and finish off the chances created by the 3 exciting prospects we have acquired. João Carvalho has joined us for a record fee of £13 million from Benfica along with his mate, Diogo Goncalves, valued at £20 million. We have him with a view to permanent. This goes for the same with Gil Dias from Monaco, valued at £17.5 million. These are the next lot of Portuguese prodigies that Jorge Mendes has managed to import in the championship this season, following his input to players with Wolves. Embed from Getty Images. We've loaned a few players out but sold Eric Lichich to Hull. Always enjoyed him as a player. Gave his all and I wish him all the best. Who was your biggest hero last season? I think for the whole of this season, I would have to say Matty Cash for me personally. A lot of people won't agree, but he just gave his all. He wasn't always the best player, but he tried to do something every time he got on the ball. He improved greatly and even found his scoring boots for the first time. I think he will come on leaps and bounds this coming season. I think the competition will only push him more. Who was your biggest disappointment? Barry McKay. He started the season off amazingly, scoring around 5/6 goals and getting 7 assists in the first few months. Then people started to work him out, put a tough tackle on him, and he didn't want to know. If a fullback was getting the better of him, he would shy away from trying to beat him. He just lacked so much confidence after such a brilliant start, and that's why he disappointed me. There are probably worse players, but for those reasons I give it him, because he has so much potential. Which of your players should we most be looking out for? Has to be Gil Dias, on loan from Monaco, I think. Not that I've seen much of the other 2 Portuguese lads, but he's scored a Messi-esque goal v Malaga. Just think he'll light up the league. Assists and goals galore. Imagine he scores something like this in the league. Eyes https://t.co/xv81. Forever Forest TV, at Forever Forest TV, July 16, 2018. Other than your team, of course. What team would you put £100 on for promotion? Stoke City. What team would you lump £100 on for relegation? Rather, and what team is going to win the Ian Holloway Trophy and be the surprise packet this season? Preston North. And which match is your must-go-to match of the season and why? Apart from Derby, I think Sheffield United. There's lots of history between the 2 clubs, always a cracking atmosphere too. What fans impressed you most last season? Millwall. If you could be granted one thing this season, what would it be? League title. Predicted league finish. 2nd Preston last season. Prediction v actual position. I predicted 9th and we finished 7th, so not too bad. How would you describe last season for your club? Tricky, disappointing, but okay. We probably would have done better without the injuries we had. At one point I thought I'd get a game in defense if I'd turned up with boots. Between nearly every first-choice defender being injured and Maguire missing for 4 months, we did well to finish where we did. We had a good start to the season, but once the injuries started coming thick and fast it all got very unnerving and we dropped too many points. By the end of the season we missed the playoffs by 2 points. What are your hopes for 2018-19 season? We finally find a goal scorer and avoid mass injuries. I think we do have a strong squad this season and we should be aiming for no less than the playoffs. How are you getting on in the transfer market? Bought or losing anyone? We've made a few signings but unfortunately we lost Cunningham to Cardiff. I think that could prove to be a big loss for us. We've brought in Graham Burke from Shamrock Rovers, Brian Ledson from Oxford United, Andrew Hughes from Peterborough United and goalkeeper Michael Crowe. Who was your biggest hero last season? Embed from Getty Images. Probably Alan Brown. He's becoming a very consistent player. Along with Ben Pearson, when he's not getting booked. Who was your biggest disappointment? I think Horgan. He came to us with so much promise but didn't do much last season and struggled to even get a place on the bench. As I said last season, when we sign all the League of Ireland players, it's such a difference stepping up to the Championship and many won't make it. Horgan has done well in pre-season so hopefully he can get his place back. Which of your players should we most be looking out for? Pearson. Other than your team, of course. What team would you put £100 on for promotion? I think automatic will be Middlesbrough and I think Stoke could bounce straight back up. What team would you lump £100 on for relegation? Bolton. What team is going to win the Ian Holloway Trophy and be the surprise packet this season? This is going to be a tough league this year and I don't think there will be many surprises. Bristol City might raise a few eyebrows this year. I don't know if they are strong enough to push for a playoff place but they might give a few teams a scare. Which match is your must-go-to match of the season and why? We've got most of our local derbies back now, so Bolton, Blackburn and Wigan. What fans impressed you most last season? Sheffield Wednesday always bring a lot. Obviously Leeds would have brought 5,000 more winking face and naturally Brentford for the sheer dedication of getting to Preston so early in the morning. If you could be granted one thing this season, what would it be? Keep the injury fairies at bay. However, at the time of writing it is rumored that Maguire is injured again already and likely to be out for a couple of months. This could however be a load of rubbish and just internet talk. Predicted league finish. I'll go for 5th. That might be a tad adventurous but it's an improvement on last season and the season before. QPR last season. Prediction v actual position 19th v 16th. How would you describe last season for your club? As expected, the positives: we reduced the size of the wage bill and the squad further, posted another improved set of financial results, remained competitive in the championship while doing it and blooded a number of exciting kids into the first team. At home we were pretty entertaining, with results on a par with Derby who finished 6th, and the scalps of a number of teams at the top end of the league including Wolves and Sheffield United in 4 days when they were the top 2. I enjoyed watching us at home last season. We were never remotely in trouble despite having our whole defense injured for several months in the middle of the season. The negatives: the away results were appalling, with just 3 wins all season and 2 of those against poor Burton and Birmingham sides. There was a brief flash when we won at Villa and drew at Fulham, playing really well in both games, inside a week, but apart from that we were way too easy to play against on the road and showed little idea how we were going to change it. Ian Holloway's maddening tendency to chop and change the team to the tune of 3 to 6 changes a game bred inconsistency, infuriated supporters and left several players wondering what was going on, having been dropped following good results and personal performances. The gap between our best performances and worst was massive, and that inconsistency continued throughout the season. What are your hopes for 2018-19 season? Realistically, it is going to be more of the same, despite the change of manager and the arrival of Steve McLaren to replace Holloway. We have to continue to bake and slice the squad, the wage bill and the costs. We're expecting a bigger loss to be posted in the accounts for 2017-18 when they come through, and while they will be just about in line with the new FFP rules, our parachute payments are about to end, so it will only be harder for a club with our stadium and training ground situation to get under that barrier without making further significant cuts. I'd like to see a more consistent approach to team selection, a stronger backbone to the team away from home, and the continued progression of some of the club's bright young players. How are you getting on in the transfer market? Bought or losing anyone? We've sold our outstanding goalkeeper Alex Smithies very cheaply, £3 million to Cardiff. That was the only bid on the table. Bournemouth had watched him but not bid, and we took it. You can probably tell what I think of that, but the club's position is we have two goalkeepers underneath him, both ready to step up to the first team, Matt Ingram, Joe Lumley, and we are in desperate need of money for at least two new centre-backs, with high earners Nedum Onuo and Jack Robinson both moving on at the end of their deals this summer. So far we've brought in a big angry German called Tony Leisner from Union Berlin who looks ideal, and there'll be another before deadline. They're trying hard for Australian Trent Sainsbury as I write this. Who was your biggest hero last season? Well, Smithies has been consistently brilliant for 2.5 years, and we would have been in a lot of trouble without him. Massimo Luongo won Player of the Year award. I went for Luke Freeman, who led the league in assists bar a couple of the Wolves lads, which was some achievement with our attack, though he did tail off towards the end of the season. Who was your biggest disappointment? The team in general away from home was a disappointment. They were too nice, too soft, too easy to play against, and it was blatantly obvious from the wildly rotating team selections that nobody knew what to do about it. This division is long and hard enough without making the away games such a total balosh. Player-wise, Connor Washington just hasn't been able to get going at this level since moving from Peterborough and looks pretty bereft of confidence. Joel Lynch is a lethal combination for a centre-half of somebody you can't rely on to take the field each week, then can't rely on when he does. Which of your players should we most be looking out for? Embed from Getty Images. A few of the young kids coming through are very exciting, particularly Northern Ireland's Paul Smith, who scored on his full QPR debut and full international debut last season. We've got a boy called Eberiz who's a bit maverick, bit inconsistent, bit prone to drifting in and out of games, but looks to be some talent at this stage. Hoffenheim basically inquired about him there and then after our friendly last week, and it could be a big breakout year for him if he gets his head right. Other than your team, of course, what team would you put £100 on for promotion? I would be surprised if Stoke don't go straight back. What team would you lump £100 on for relegation? I don't see Rotherham surviving. It irritates the hell out of me that Bolton, one of the worst away trips in the entire league, won one away game all season, were terrible from the first game to the last, but managed to get just good enough, just long enough, 4 minutes of the final game of the season, to survive and relegate Burton Albion and their lovely town full of pubs. I expect they'll go as well this time. What team is going to win the Ian Holloway Trophy and be the surprise packet this season? Preston will go well in my view, though whether that's a surprise or not I'm not sure. They'll probably get relegated now. I've said that, but then I'd be surprised, so it would still count as me being right. Which match is your must-go-to match of the season and why? Same as this and every other year, Nottingham Forest on December 22nd. Nice 4-0 defeat there last year made it 34 visits and no wins, so we'll all traipse back up there en masse just in case this is the time it finally happens. What fans impressed you most last season? Anybody who spends time and money traveling around watching this festering turd of a division impresses, worries me. If you could be granted one thing this season, what would it be? A run in the FA Cup. And if I may be so bold for a second wish, a run in the FA Cup with some interesting draws. We haven't won a game without the aid of a replay since Trevor Sinclair's bicycle kick. We haven't been beyond the fourth round since then either, and we're almost always unceremoniously dumped out in a dreadfully dull third-round tie with Blackburn, West Brom, Forest or MK Bloody Dons. Predicted league finish: 16th Reading last season. Prediction: the actual position 11th, THB 20th. How would you describe last season for your club? Appalling. Having confounded all expectations and finished an unconvincing third the season before, the expectation was to solidify and improve. As it turned out, we started as we meant to go on. We were completely outplayed by QPR on the opening day and then only drew with Fulham the week after, despite the Cottagers having Tomas Kalas sent off inside the first minute. To top it all off, the equaliser was scored by Lucas Piazon, who chose to give it the big un after receiving a bit of stick the season before for being one of the most gutless players to have ever pulled on a Reading shirt. Having said that, the next match was the performance of the season for me, beating Villa convincingly with the quick, incisive play in tight areas that we had neglected to do over the previous year or so, and the hope was we had suddenly clicked. Not to be, as teams simply sat deep and allowed us to have the ball, which we kept passing side to side in front of the inevitable two banks of 4 and 5 before picking us off on the break. We had a short spell of form in November and early December where it again looked like we might have turned a corner with a run of 1 defeat and 7 to Wolves in a game we should have gotten something from. We had them on the ropes for long periods, but it all went to *T from there with 2 wins in 21 leading to Stam's dismissal. The writing was on the wall for Stam from early January really, after being horribly outplayed at Stevenage, which led to a bit of a fans and player standoff. Supporters by that time had simply lost faith with Stam's methods. In truth, Stam should have gone 2 months before he did, but the club made the only call available to them in March if they wanted to maintain championship status. And even then that came down to the last day under Clement, who it must be said didn't really improve performances. What are your hopes for 2018-19 season? To be better than last season. If we plateau or recede, we'll go down. Feeling is we've not really improved in attack, and that is hugely concerning for supporters. Unless we can nail down a proven championship striker, supporters will go into the season with an air of pessimism the like of which we've not really felt for 20-odd years. That air will begin to sweep down onto the pitch if we start off badly, and we've seen time and time again with too many of the players in this squad that when the going gets tough, they melt. The Medeski was becoming an increasingly toxic place to play from December onwards last season, and if that starts to happen again, then I think we'll need divine inspiration to keep our heads above water. Make no bones about it, Paul Clement has a tough job on his hands, but with the climax to last season seeing us lose 4 from 7, concede 13 goals, score just 4 and having not yet won a single pre-season match with 1 to play against Palace, it's proving increasingly difficult to get excited about the upcoming season. Gut instinct? We'll be involved in a season-long relegation battle. How are you getting on in the transfer market? Bought or losing anyone? We've been active, however, the one position we haven't filled with a genuine known quality is up front. Mark McNulty has signed from Coventry, so hopefully he can make the step up after his 28-goal haul last season, although League 2 is a different beast to the Championship. Andy Yiadam was earning good reviews last season as a standout player in a poor Barnsley side, and we managed to snap him up on a free. Likewise, the more recognizable faces of David Myler and John O'Shea have joined. I'm genuinely hopeful the signings solidify us at the very least and add a bit of backbone which was so sorely lacking last season. Still under contract was Joey van den Berg, but he has gone back to the Netherlands NEC, while we released Jan Cormorgant, Dennis Rakels, Joseph Mendes, Jonathan Bond and Stephen Quinn amongst others. It's hard to be overly optimistic about the changes, but let's not be disingenuous to the new chaps. Hopefully they do what we need them to do and lift us up the table. Who was your biggest hero last season? Difficult one this, as not many really stood out. Toss-up between Mo Barrow and John Daddy Bodvarsson, both of whom returned reasonable goal figures in a pretty abject team. Who was your biggest disappointment? Sona Luko. Spent big money on him for us, but he simply didn't deliver. Didn't get into threatening areas often enough, often drifted deep in central, and when he did get into good areas all too often failed to provide the service a player of his caliber should have done. A big season for him at Reading this year. He should feel he has a point to prove. Which your player should we most be looking out for? Embed from Getty Images. Mo Barrow had a decent season last year, and in a better side who knows what he could do. Lightning quick, has started to find some consistency with his delivery and can finish as well. A genuine threat to all opponents. Other than your team, of course. What team would you put £100 on for promotion? I got this right last season predicting Fulham, so I'm on a roll. I think given the quality in their side it's difficult to look past Stoke. They've kept the majority of their team together and have added genuine quality in Ifobi, Ince, McLean and Federici. What team would you lump £100 on for relegation? I predicted Millwall last season and got that one horribly wrong. Rotherham this time around, they won't be anywhere near as bad as their 16th-17th side, but it's difficult to see them getting the points required against so many hardened championship teams. What team is going to win the Ian Holloway Trophy and be the surprise packet this season? There's a few you could choose from. Wigan will be strong under Cook. PNE will be competitive once again and with a bit of luck could sneak into the playoffs. Millwall will hope to carry on from where they left off last year. Ipswich, though, quietly going about their business on a budget, but if Paul Hurst can emulate what he achieved at Grimsby and Shrewsbury, then Ipswich will be more than okay. Which match is your must-go-to match of the season and why? Millwall always love going to the Den, particularly when they're doing well and have got something to play for. Their atmosphere is unique in English football and they really get behind their team, and on the backs of the opponents. What fans impressed you most last season? Any one of the 730 Sheffield United fans that made the trip to the Medeski in late February. Snow everywhere, absolutely Baltic conditions, and they walked away with an easy win. If you could be granted one thing this season, what would it be? Exciting football from a Reading side, something we've sorely lacked since the early days of McDermott. Predicted league finish. 16th Rotherham. How would you describe last season for your club? Last season one predicted a 10th place finish. League One. Finished 4th and won playoffs. Words almost fail me. Astonishing, incredible, unbelievable. Yet, a truly dire pathetic exit from the championship. The previous season had many pundits, including many of our own fans, predicting successive relegations. How wrong they all were. We didn't start well, losing at Fleetwood Town, and that early form continued to disappoint. Turning point was a second-half turnaround at Blackpool, snatching victory from what looked like another defeat. A long unbeaten run then propelled us towards the playoffs, and we briefly threatened the automatic promotion places. In the end we finished 4th, beat Scunthorpe over 2 legs fairly comfortably and secured a 4th trip to Wembley. Shrewsbury were our opponents. They'd amazed everyone by competing toe-to-toe with big clubs, Blackburn and Wigan, before running out of steam by finishing 3rd. Wembley proved to be one of those memorable days as we deservedly beat the Shrews and regained our championship status after just one season away. That much talked about gap between the Premiership and Championship might also be true of the difference between the Championship and League One, with Blackburn, Wigan and the Millers all regaining their status at the first attempt. Hopes for season simply to survive. We've been here before and found to be completely out of our depth, especially that last time we were here. Looking at the fixture list, it hardly looks any less daunting. There is some reason for optimism though. Our manager Paul Ward, our former fitness coach, appears to have instilled something of a real team spirit amongst his squad. He's re-engaged with the fans. He also has a knack of recruiting well despite our lack of funds. He's surrounded himself with former colleagues to help coach the team, and we might well surprise a few, especially at home. Transfer market up to now, with the new season just a week away, I think it's fair to say that we've hardly raised any eyebrows with our recruitment. A couple of players in from Blackpool and a defender released by Sunderland added to by 3 loans suggest our financial outgoings will not increase significantly in this transfer window. At least we haven't parted with anyone, at least to date. Biggest hero after that amazing turnaround of our fortunes, there's a few I could mention. Loan signing goalkeeper from Fulham, Rodick, produced some great saves throughout. Will Vox struggled in the Championship but grew and grew in League One. Michael Smith signed from Bury in January as a replacement for our loan signing from Ipswich, Kiefer Moore, who disappointingly decided on a permanent move to near neighbours Barnsley, despite our best efforts to persuade him otherwise. Bury fans seemingly couldn't wait to get rid of Smith, but what a player he's proved to be and will surely be a hit in this higher division. Biggest hero award though goes to centre-back Richard Wood. He almost left the club for neighbouring Chesterfield on a free at Christmas. Injuries meant we decided to keep him for the remainder of the season. What a good decision that proved to be. His goals in the playoffs, the 2 goals at Wembley in particular, had us fans singing his praises, and there's even a song about him. I hope he gets a chance to prove himself in this season's championship. Biggest disappointment, not really anyone stands out. I was disappointed that local boy Jerry Yates failed once again to realize his potential. He was outstanding in our junior ranks, but despite this has struggled to make the grade in either the Championship or last season's League One. He's now been loaned out to League Two Carlisle United, where I suspect he might remain. Who to look out for? Embed from Getty Images. Michael Smith up front is likely to prove a real handful. Matty Palmer, signed from Burton last season, should do well at this level in midfield. Joe Newell is our best footballer, also in midfield, but can be a tad inconsistent. His style of running at opponents might well be better suited to their Championship, where footballers have more time to play. Team I'd put £100 on for promotion. Pundits seem to fancy Stoke, who've spent big. I'm not so sure, as in my opinion they've not spent wisely. I'd go for one of the other relegated sides, West Bromwich Albion, to win promotion at first attempt. Team I'd lump £100 on to be relegated. One thing's for sure, when all these fans' predictions are completed, I'd lump £100 that they are unanimous in forecasting our Rotherham United for an immediate return to League One. We shall see. My prediction is that Bolton will be relegated. They were fortunate last time around and have offered little to suggest anything being any different this season. Bolton to be relegated then. Ian Holloway Trophy winners. Surprise pack at Wigan Athletic might well surprise and even threaten those 2 automatic promotion spots. They have the funds to strengthen their squad and are ably led by Paul Cook. Who can forget their win over Man City in the Cup? I'd also say that we, the Millers, will confound those pundits and finish above the 3 relegation places.